The sun was setting on Kelrath for the 37th time since the enemy arrived. Elder Torvin stood on the broken wall and looked at the dark ships in the sky. His forearms hung tired at his sides. He was old, very old, and he had never thought he would see war come to his peaceful home. Behind the walls, 3,000 people waited in the caves. They were farmers and miners. They grew food and dug minerals from the ground. They had never hurt anyone. But the Vraken did not care about that. The Vraken only wanted to take and destroy. Torvin remembered when the first ships appeared. It was morning and the children were playing in the fields. Then the sky turned dark with metal and fire. The Vraken ships came down like angry gods. Their leader, a cruel creature named Thrakis, spoke through the communication systems. He said Kelrath now belonged to the Vraken Dominion. He said everyone must surrender or die. The people of Kelrath ran to the old fortress. It was built long ago by their ancestors. The walls were strong and the caves beneath went deep into the ground. They thought they could hide until help came. They sent messages across the stars. They called to the Galactic Council. They called to their neighbors. They called to anyone who would listen, but no one came. The council sent back one cold message. It said Kelrath was too far away. It said saving them would cost too much. It said they were sorry, but the math did not work. 3,000 lives were not worth the price of a rescue. Captain Zelith walked up the stone steps to join Torvin. Zelith was younger, with bright green skin and eyes that used to be full of hope. Now those eyes looked empty. He was the security chief, but he only had 20 guards with old weapons. What could 20 guards do against 15,000 Vraken warriors? The shields are failing, Zelith said quietly. Maybe 1 hour left. Then they will break through, Torvin nodded. He had known this moment would come. They all had. For 37 days they had held on. For 37 days they had hoped someone would answer their call. But the galaxy was silent. Below them, a Vraken war machine fired at the shields. The blue energy barrier flickered and sparked. With each hit, it grew weaker. The Vraken knew they had won. They were just playing now, making the colonists suffer before the end. Should we surrender? Zelith asked. Maybe they will let the children live. Torvin shook his head slowly. The Vraken do not show mercy. We have all heard the stories. The other colonies they attacked. The people they took as slaves or killed for sport. No, surrender will not save us. In the caves, mothers held their babies close. Old people whispered prayers. Young ones tried to be brave, but their hands shook with fear. They had done everything right. They had followed all the rules. They had called for help the proper way, and still they were going to die. A young technician named Vera sat at the old communication console. Her job was to watch for any response to their distress signals. For 37 days she had watched the empty screen. For 37 days she had heard nothing but static and silence. She was about to turn it off and join her family when something blinked on the screen. Her 3 eyes went wide. Sir, Elder Torvin? Captain Zelith. Come quickly. They ran down the steps, their hearts beating fast. Had someone finally answered? Was help coming? What is it? Torvin asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Vera's hands moved across the controls. There is something at the edge of the system. A big energy reading. Very big. Multiple contacts moving toward us very fast. Zelith felt his hope die before it could even grow. More Vraken ships. They are bringing reinforcements to finish us off. But Vera looked confused. No, sir. These readings are different. The energy signatures do not match Vraken technology. They do not match anything in our database. Torvin and Zelith looked at each other. Who else could it be? Every species in this part of space was known. Every ship type was recorded. The Galactic Council kept detailed files on all member races and their neighbors. Outside, the Vraken commander Thrakis stood in his command post. He was tall and covered in thick armor. His face was ugly and mean. He had led raids on 17 colonies. He enjoyed watching the weak ones beg and cry. How much longer? He asked his second in command. The shields will fall in 1 hour, Commander. Then we can take the fortress and claim what is ours. Thrakis smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Good. I grow tired of waiting. When we break through, kill the adults but keep some children. They will fetch a good price at the slave markets. His tactical officer suddenly looked up from his screen. Commander, we are detecting something. Large energy signatures approaching from the outer system. Thrakis walked over and looked at the display. Our fleet sending more ships? We do not need them. This colony is already beaten. No, sir. These are not our ships. The readings are unknown. For the first time, Thrakis felt a small seed of worry, but he pushed it away. He was Vraken. He was a conqueror. What did he have to fear from some unknown ships? On the fortress wall, more colonists had gathered. They stared at the sky, not knowing what to feel. Was this their end? Were new enemies coming? Or could it possibly be help? Elder Torvin felt something strange in his chest. His people believed that they had a special organ that connected them to fate. When something important was about to happen, that organ would flutter like a small bird. Torvin had not felt it move in many years, but now it was beating like wings against his ribs. Look, someone shouted. The sky was changing. Points of light appeared where there had been only stars and darkness. The lights grew bigger and brighter. They were moving fast, very fast. Zelith checked his scanner. They are slowing down. Coming into orbit. I count 12 large ships. No 15. No 20. There are so many. The Vraken fleet in orbit began to move. Their ships turned to face the newcomers. Warning signals were sent. Weapons were powered up. Then the sky split open with light. The new ships opened fire. Bright beams of energy cut through space. Missiles flew like comets. The Vraken fleet tried to fight back, but these newcomers moved like dancers. They dodged and weaved. They struck with perfect aim. One Vraken battleship exploded in a ball of fire. Then another. And another. On the ground, every person watched in shock. The mighty Vraken fleet, the ships that had trapped them for 37 days, were being destroyed. And it was happening fast. Thrakis stared at his displays with growing horror. Half his fleet was gone in minutes. What are these ships? What species is this? His communication officer's voice shook. We are receiving a transmission. Audio only. Play it, Thrakis ordered. A voice came through the speakers. It spoke in a language the translator system struggled with. But slowly the words became clear. It was a male voice, strong and angry. Vraken forces, this is Captain Ryan Cooper of the Earth Defense Force carrier Valiant. You are hereby ordered to cease all hostile actions against the colony of Kelrath immediately. Surrender now or be destroyed. Earth. The word meant nothing to Thrakis. He had never heard of such a place, but Elder Torvin had heard it. He stood on his wall with tears running down his face. Someone had come. After 37 days of silence, someone had finally come. The voice continued. We received a distress call. We heard people calling for help. We are here to answer that call. Any Vraken ship or soldier that does not withdraw will be considered an enemy combatant. In the caves, people began to cry. Not from fear this time, but from relief, from joy, from hope they thought was dead. Torvin looked up at the sky as new lights appeared. Hundreds of them. Like falling stars, they streaked down through the atmosphere, leaving trails of fire behind them. What are those? Zelith whispered. The young technician Vara checked her screen. Drop pods. Someone is landing troops. A lot of troops. The pods hit the ground around the Vraken positions with thunderous booms. The earth shook. Dust and smoke rose into the air. From each pod, an armored figure emerged. Warriors from Earth had arrived. Commander Jake Morrison checked his armor one last time. Every seal was tight. Every system showed green. Around him in the drop bay, 200 Marines did the same thing. They had done this before, but it never got easier. Dropping from orbit into a war zone was always dangerous. Jake had been a Marine for 15 years. He had seen combat on 6 different worlds. He had led men and women through fire and death. But this mission felt different. This time they were not fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting to save people who had been abandoned by everyone else. Listen up, Jake said into his helmet radio. His voice went out to every Marine in the company. We have 3,000 civilians down there. They have been under attack for 37 days. 37 days they held on waiting for help. The Galactic Council told them no one was coming. Well, they were wrong. Lieutenant Amy Chen stood next to Jake. She was smaller than most Marines, but she was tough as steel. She had saved Jake's life twice in past battles. Her rifle was loaded and ready. How many Vraken on the ground? Amy asked. About 15,000, Jake answered, plus armor and artillery. They have the colonists trapped in a fortress. So we are outnumbered, said Sergeant Danny Price from across the bay. He was a big man with a thick beard. He grinned like this was the best news ever. Just the way we like it, the other Marines laughed. It was not that they were not scared. Fear was always there before a drop. But they had each other. They had trained together. They had bled together, and they had a mission that mattered. The bay doors began to open. Cold air rushed in. Below them, the planet Kelrath looked peaceful from up here, green and blue with white clouds. It was hard to believe there was a battle happening down there. 30 seconds to drop, said the voice of the drop coordinator. All pods are ready. Good hunting, Marines. Jake took a deep breath. Remember the plan. We hit them hard and fast. Create a corridor to the fortress. Get those civilians to safety. Then we push the Vraken out. Questions? No one spoke. They all knew what to do. Okay then, Jake said. Let's go save some lives. The countdown hit 0. Jake felt his pod launch, pushing him back into the seat. The pod punched through the atmosphere. Through the small window, he could see hundreds of other pods falling with him. They looked like meteors, burning bright as they fell. The ride down was rough. The pod shook and rattled. Heat built up outside as they cut through the air. Jake had made 43 drops in his career. He still hated this part. But it only lasted a minute. On the ground, the Vraken soldiers were getting ready for their final attack. They stood in formation, weapons ready. Their leader Thrakus had just ordered them to breach the fortress walls when someone shouted, "Look at the sky." Hundreds of burning objects were falling toward them. At first, the Vraken thought it was orbital bombardment. They started to scatter and run. But these objects were not bombs. They were landing pods. The first pods hit the ground with massive force. The impact threw Vraken soldiers into the air. Craters formed where the pods landed. Then the pods opened. Jake's pod hit hard. His crash harness kept him safe, but he still felt the shock through his whole body. The pod's front panel blew off with explosive bolts. Jake released his harness and stepped out into smoke and dust. Around him, other Marines were emerging from their pods. They moved quickly, forming up into squads. Their armor was dark gray and covered in sensors. Their weapons were advanced rifles that could punch through almost any armor. A Vraken warrior bigger than any human came charging through the smoke. It had 4 arms and carried a huge blade. It roared and swung at Jake. Jake moved to the side. The blade missed him by inches. He brought his rifle up and fired 3 quick shots. The bullets hit the Vraken in the chest. The creature fell. Contact left, someone shouted. More Vraken were coming. They had recovered from their surprise and were attacking. But the humans were ready. Second squad, take the left flank, Jake ordered. Third squad, secure that ridge. Fourth squad, with me. We need to clear a path to the fortress. The Marines moved like they were one organism. They covered each other. They communicated constantly. When one person reloaded, another provided covering fire. It was beautiful and deadly. Amy Chen's squad moved through the Vraken positions like a knife. Her rifle barked in short, controlled bursts. Each burst dropped an enemy. She saw a Vraken trying to set up a heavy weapon. "Danny, rocket that position," she said calmly. "On it," Danny replied. He raised his launcher and fired. The rocket screamed across the battlefield and exploded. The heavy weapon and its crew were gone. Jake's squad reached a low hill that overlooked the fortress. He could see the old walls and the blue shimmer of failing shields. He could also see thousands of Vraken gathered for their assault. "All units, this is Commander Morrison," Jake said. "We have visual on the fortress. It looks like the shields are about to fail. We need to reach those civilians now." "This is Lieutenant Kevin Ross," came a voice over the radio. "We are pushing from the east. Meeting heavy resistance, but we are moving forward." "This is Lieutenant Helen Grant," said another voice. "West approach is clear. We can see the fortress entrance." Jake smiled inside his helmet. The plan was working. They had landed in a circle around the Vraken forces. Now they were closing that circle, pushing the enemy back toward the center. But the Vraken were not running away. They were professional soldiers, even if they were cruel. They formed defensive lines. They brought up their armored vehicles. They were going to make the humans pay for every meter. A Vraken tank turned its gun toward Jake's position. He saw the barrel start to glow as it charged up. "Everyone down," he yelled. The plasma blast hit the hill just below them. Rock and dirt exploded upward. Jake felt the heat even through his armor. When the smoke cleared, the hillside was a smoking crater. "Okay, I am tired of that thing," Jake said. "Amy, can you get a shot?" Amy was already moving. She ran along the ridge to a better position. The tank was turning to fire again. She raised her rifle and aimed carefully. Her weapon had special ammunition for hard targets. She fired. The bullet flew true. It hit the tank's sensor array. Sparks flew. The tank stopped moving as its systems went down. "Target disabled," Amy reported. Good shot, Jake said. All right, people. The fortress shields just failed. We need to move now. Push forward. The Marines surged ahead. They fought with a fury that shocked the Vraken. These humans were smaller than most Vraken warriors, but they were faster, smarter, and they never stopped coming. Inside the fortress, Elder Torvin watched through a crack in the wall. The strange warriors in gray armor were winning. They were actually winning. It seemed impossible. Who are they? Captain Zelith asked, his voice full of wonder. I do not know, Torvin answered, but they came. After everyone else said no, they came. A huge explosion rocked the battlefield. One of the Vraken's ammunition dumps had been hit. Fire and smoke rose high into the air. Jake saw his chance. All units, the Vraken line is breaking. Push through. Get to that fortress entrance. The Marines ran forward. They were tired. Some were wounded. But they did not slow down, because behind those walls were 3,000 people who needed them. Danny Price's squad reached the fortress gates first. Vraken soldiers tried to stop them, but the Marines cut through them. Danny planted explosive charges on the Vraken barricades and blew them apart. Path is clear, Danny shouted. Civilians can evacuate. Jake reached the gate moments later. He could see faces looking out from inside. Strange faces with different numbers of eyes and arms and colors he had never seen, but they were people. They were scared and hurt and hoping. Jake removed his helmet. He wanted them to see his face. He wanted them to know he was real. I am Commander Jake Morrison, he said. His translator device changed his words into their language. We are from Earth. We heard your distress call. We are here to help. An old being with forearms came forward slowly. He looked like he could barely stand. Tears were running down his face. You came, the old one whispered. They said no one would come, but you came. Jake felt a lump in his throat. He had seen a lot of terrible things in war, but he had never seen people so grateful just to be noticed. We came, Jake said firmly, and we are not leaving until you are safe. Now please get your people ready to move. We need to get everyone to a secure location. Behind him, Amy and the other Marines set up a defensive perimeter. More pods were landing. Reinforcements were arriving. In the sky above, human ships were destroying the last of the Vraken fleet. The battle was not over yet, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. Earth's warriors had fallen from the sky, and they had brought hope with them. The fortress entrance was chaos. Colonists were streaming out of the caves, many of them injured or sick. Children clung to their parents. Old ones leaned on the young. Everyone moved slowly, weak from 37 days of fear and little food. Commander Jake Morrison stood at the entrance, directing his Marines. I need medical teams here now. We have wounded civilians. Set up a triage station in that cleared area. Kevin, take your squad and secure the perimeter. Nothing gets close to these people. Lieutenant Kevin Ross nodded and moved his Marines into position. They formed a protective wall between the civilians and the ongoing battle. Their weapons stayed ready. Their eyes scanned for threats. A human medic named Lisa Grant ran up with her medical kit. She was short with red hair tied back in a tight bun. She had been a combat medic for 8 years and had seen every kind of wound. But when she saw the colonists, her heart broke a little. Many of them were starving. Their skin hung loose on thin frames. Some had wounds that had become infected because they had no medicine. Children sat in the dirt, too weak to stand. Lisa knelt beside a small Kelrathi child. The child had 6 legs and soft blue fur, but was so thin Lisa could see every rib. Big eyes looked up at her with confusion and fear. Hey there, little one, Lisa said softly. Her translator made her words understandable. My name is Lisa. I am here to help you. Is it okay if I look at your leg? The child's leg was badly cut and wrapped in dirty cloth. The child nodded slowly. Lisa carefully unwrapped the cloth. The wound was infected. It would need antibiotics and proper bandaging. As Lisa worked, the child's mother approached. She was shaking, her forearms wrapped around herself. Please, is my baby going to be okay? Lisa looked up and smiled. Yes. This infection is bad, but we have medicine that will fix it. Your baby's going to be fine. The mother collapsed to her knees and sobbed. Relief and gratitude poured out in a language Lisa did not need a translator to understand. Elder Torvin made his way through the crowd toward the human commander. His legs were unsteady, but he forced himself to stay upright. Captain Zelith walked beside him, ready to catch him if he fell. Jake saw them coming and walked to meet them halfway. He had put his helmet back on because there was still fighting nearby. but he lifted the visor so they could see his face. "Commander Morrison," Torvin said. Each word took effort. "I am Elder Torvin, leader of this colony. I must know. How many of you have come?" "We have about 2,000 Marines on the ground," Jake answered, "and 20 ships in orbit. More are on the way." Torvin's eyes went wide. 2,000? Only 2,000 against 15,000 Vraken? Jake smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had done impossible things before. "We have found that numbers are not everything, Elder Torvin. What matters is training, equipment, and motivation. The Vraken are fighting because they were ordered to. We are fighting because innocent people need help. That makes all the difference." An explosion echoed across the battlefield. Everyone flinched. But Jake did not even turn around. He trusted his people to handle it. "Your people should rest," Jake continued. "Get some food and water. My medics will treat everyone who needs it. Once the area is secure, we will move you to a safer location. We have very little to offer in return," Torvin said quietly. "Our colony is poor. We have no great resources, no valuable technology. We cannot repay this debt." Jake's expression became serious. "Elder Torvin, we did not come here for payment. We came because you called for help and no one answered. That is all the reason we needed." Zelith spoke up. "But why? You do not know us. We are not your people. Why would you risk your lives for strangers?" Jake looked at the colonists being treated by his medics. He saw children getting food. He saw the wounded being bandaged. He saw hope returning to eyes that had been empty. "Where I come from," Jake said slowly, "we believe that all people deserve a chance to live in peace. We believe that when someone is in trouble, you help them if you can. It does not matter if they are your neighbor or a stranger across the stars. What matters is that they need help and you can give it." Amy Chen jogged over. Her armor was scorched in places from near misses. "Commander, we have pushed the Vraken back to their landing zones. They are trying to evacuate. Captain Cooper wants to know if we should let them go or finish them." Jake thought for a moment. "Tell the captain to let any ship that is retreating go. But any ship that tries to fire on us or the colony gets destroyed. And tell Danny to round up any Vraken soldiers who surrender. We will hold them as prisoners until we can turn them over to proper authorities." "Yes, sir," Amy said and ran off. Torvin watched this exchange with growing amazement. "You would let them retreat? After what they did?" "I would prefer to capture them all and see them face justice," Jake admitted. "But my first priority is the safety of your people and my Marines. If the Vraken want to run, that saves lives on both sides. However, if they want to keep fighting, we will finish it." More colonists were coming out of the caves now. They moved like people in a dream, unable to believe what was happening. For over a month they had waited to die. Now humans were giving them food, medicine, and protection. A group of children gathered around one of the Marines, a young man named Ben Parker. Ben was only 22, fresh out of basic training. This was his first real combat mission. He was scared during the drop, but now he felt good. He was helping people. The children stared at him with curiosity. Some had 2 eyes, some had 4. Some had eyes that glowed in the dark. But they all looked at him the same way. "Like he was a hero. What is Earth like?" one child asked in a small voice. Ben smiled. "Earth is beautiful. We have blue oceans and green forests, mountains that touch the sky, cities with millions of people. But you know what the best thing about Earth is?" The children shook their heads. "The best thing about Earth is that no one is alone. If you are in trouble, someone will help you. If you are hungry, someone will feed you. If you are scared, someone will protect you. That is what we believe in." An older child, maybe a teenager in their species, asked, "But the Galactic Council said Earth is not a member. They said Earth is too far away and too primitive. How can you have ships and weapons like this if you are primitive?" Ben laughed. "The Council thinks we are primitive because we do things differently. We do not follow all their rules. We do not care about their politics. We just care about helping people. Maybe that makes us primitive in their eyes, but we are okay with that." Across the battlefield, the fighting was ending. The Vraken who could still fight were retreating to their ships. Those ships that could still fly were leaving the planet. The ones that tried to fire on the humans were destroyed quickly by the orbiting fleet. Commander Thrakis stood in his command ship, watching his forces fall apart. He had lost half his fleet. His ground forces were scattered or captured. This was supposed to be an easy conquest. These colonists were supposed to be helpless. Then these humans appeared. Humans. He had never heard of them before today, and now they had destroyed his force and ruined his reputation. "Get us out of this system," he ordered his pilot. "Maximum speed. And send a message to Dominion Command. Tell them we encountered an unknown hostile species. Very dangerous, very aggressive." As his ship fled, Thrakus looked back at the planet. He could see the human ships in orbit, smaller than his dreadnoughts but so much more deadly. He thought about the human warriors on the ground. Their armor, their tactics, their absolute refusal to give up. He had fought many species. He had beaten all of them. But these humans were different. They fought like every battle was personal, like every civilian they saved mattered to them. For the first time in his career, Thrakus felt something he had not felt before. Fear. Fear that the Vrakan Dominion had just made a very dangerous enemy. Back on Kelrath, the last of the colonists had emerged from the caves. 3,000 souls stood in the open air for the first time in over a month. Human Marines stood guard around them. Human medics treated their wounds. Human engineers were already working to restore power and water to the colony. Elder Torvin sat on a broken wall, too tired to stand anymore. Lisa Grant brought him water and food. She checked his vital signs and gave him medicine for his exhaustion. "You should rest," Lisa said gently. "You have been through a terrible time." Torvin drank the water slowly. It was clean and cool. "I thought I would die here." We all did. When the council said no one was coming, we accepted our fate. We prayed for a peaceful death. Lisa sat beside him. "But someone did come." "Yes," Torvin said, tears flowing again. "You came. Humans came. People we never knew existed. People who owed us nothing. You crossed the stars to save us." "That is what we do," Lisa said simply. "We help where we can." Torvin looked at her. This young human woman with her red hair and kind eyes. "Are all humans like you?" Lisa thought about that. "We are not perfect. We have problems. We make mistakes, but most of us try to do the right thing when we can, and when we hear someone calling for help, we cannot ignore it. It is just not in our nature." The sun was setting again, but this time it set on a colony that was free. The Vrakan were gone. The nightmare was over, and the sky was full of human ships standing guard. Jake stood on the wall where Torvin had stood so many times. He looked at the colonists below. 3 days after the battle, Kelrath looked different. The broken walls were being repaired. Human engineers worked alongside colonists to restore power and water systems. Medical tents stood where Vrakan war machines had been. The air smelled of cooking food instead of smoke and fear. Elder Torvin walked through his colony with wonder. Children played in the streets again. People smiled. They were still thin and tired, but they were alive. And more than alive, they had hope. Captain Ryan Cooper had come down from his ship, the Valiant. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. He walked with Commander Jake Morrison through the colony, inspecting the repairs. "The engineers say basic services will be restored in 2 days," Cooper said. "Power, water, communications. After that, we can start on the damaged buildings." Jake nodded. "What about the other colonies? The ones the Vrakan hit before this?" Cooper's face darkened. "We have found 3 more, all under attack or occupation. I have dispatched battle groups to each one. We will free them all." They stopped at a small memorial the colonists had built. It was made of stones and flowers. Names were carved into the stones. The 147 colonists who had died during the siege. They held out for 37 days, Cooper said quietly. Most military forces would have broken in a week. These were farmers and miners. No training. Old weapons. But they held. They had something to fight for, Jake replied. Their homes. Their families. That makes people strong. A young Kelrathi girl approached them shyly. She held something in her small hands. It was a flower, blue and delicate. "For you," she said to Jake in halting galactic standard. "Thank you for saving us." Jake knelt down so he was at her level. He took the flower carefully. "What is your name?" "Marin," the girl said. "That's a beautiful name, Marin. How old are you?" 7 cycles, she answered. That was about 9 Earth years. "You were very brave during the siege," Jake said. "I heard you helped the medics." "That took courage," Marin looked at her feet. "I was scared every day." "Being brave does not mean you are not scared," Jake told her. "It means you do what needs to be done even when you are scared. That makes you a hero, Marin." The girl's eyes went wide. Then she smiled, a real smile that lit up her face. She ran back to her mother, who stood watching with tears in her eyes. Cooper helped Jake stand. "You are good with kids." "I have a daughter back home," Jake said. "She's about that age. You must miss her." "Every day," Jake admitted. "But this is why I do this job, so that girls like Marin and girls like my daughter can grow up safe." They continued their walk. Everywhere they went, colonists stopped to thank them. Some brought gifts, small things they had made. Others just wanted to touch the human warriors to make sure they were real. In the command center, Lieutenant Amy Chen was working with Captain Zealith. They were reviewing security for the colony. Amy had helped train Zealith's guards in better tactics and the use of the modern weapons Earth had provided. "The key is overlapping fields of fire," Amy explained, pointing at a map. "You never want a blind spot. Every area should be covered by at least 2 positions." Zealith studied the map carefully. "This is much more complex than what we had before." "It is," Amy agreed. "But it works. And we will leave you weapons, sensors, and shield generators. The next time someone attacks, you will be ready." "The next time," Zealith repeated. "Do you think the Vraken will come back?" Amy considered her words carefully. "I think the Vraken have learned that Kelrath is protected now. They are bullies. Bullies look for easy targets." "You are not easy anymore," a communication officer called out. "Lieutenant Chen, we are receiving a transmission. It is from the Galactic Council. They are demanding to speak with whoever is in command." Amy and Zealith exchanged looks. "Patch it through to Captain Cooper," Amy said. Moments later, Cooper's voice came over the radio. "All senior officers to the command center. The council wants to talk." When everyone gathered, they activated the communication system. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a being that looked like a cross between an insect and a bird. This was Counselor Varix, one of the senior members of the Galactic Council. "I am Counselor Varix of the Galactic Council," the hologram said. Its voice was cold and formal. "To whom am I speaking?" Cooper stepped forward. "I am Captain Ryan Cooper of the Earth Defense Force. I command the battle group currently protecting Kelrath." "Earth?" Varix said the word like it tasted bad. "We have no record of Earth in our database. You are not a member of the Galactic Council. You have no authority in this sector." "We do not need your authority to help people in distress," Cooper replied calmly. "You attacked Vraken forces," Varix continued. "The Vraken Dominion is a recognized entity. By attacking them, you have violated several interstellar treaties." Jake felt his anger rising. He stepped forward. "The Vraken were slaughtering civilians. We stopped them. If that violates your treaties, then your treaties are wrong." Varix's hologram turned to look at Jake. "And you are?" "Commander Jake Morrison, Earth Defense Force Marines." "Commander Morrison, you do not understand the complexities of galactic politics. The Council must maintain balance. We cannot intervene in every conflict." "You did not intervene at all," Jake shot back. "Kelrath sent you a distress call. You told them to die quietly because saving them cost too much." "We have limited resources," Varix said stiffly. "We must prioritize." "Then your priorities are screwed up," Jake said bluntly. 3,000 people were about to be killed or enslaved. That should have been your priority. Cooper put a hand on Jake's shoulder, a gentle reminder to stay calm. Then Cooper addressed the counselor. "Counselor Varix, Earth is new to galactic politics. We do not know all your rules and traditions, but we know right from wrong. We know that when someone calls for help, you answer if you can. That is what we did. That is what we will always do." "You have no idea what you have started," Varix warned. "The Vraken Dominion will see this as an act of war. Other powers will take notice. You have made enemies." "We made enemies by saving innocent lives?" Amy asked. "What kind of galaxy is this?" "A complicated one," Varix replied. "I suggest you leave this sector immediately and return to your own space. Do not interfere in galactic affairs again." Cooper's expression hardened. "We are not leaving. We will stay until Kelrath is secure, and we will respond to any other distress calls we receive. If that makes us your enemies, so be it." The hologram flickered. Varix seemed surprised by this response. "Most species were intimidated by the Council. You are making a mistake," Varix said. "No," Cooper replied. "The mistake was yours. You abandoned these people. You let them suffer. You stood by and did nothing. Earth will not do that ever." The hologram cut off abruptly. The room was silent for a moment. "Well," Danny Price said from the back of the room, "I guess we are not getting invited to their parties." A few people laughed, but the mood was serious. They had just defied the most powerful political body in the galaxy. Elder Torvin had been standing quietly in the corner. Now he spoke. You did not have to do that. You could have left. Returned to Earth, been safe. We could have, Cooper agreed, but that is not who we are. You have made powerful enemies for us, Torvin said. His voice shook. The Council. The Vraken. Others who will see your actions as a threat. Cooper walked over to the old elder. Elder Torvin, you are not alone anymore. Earth stands with you, and I promise you we do not abandon our friends. Torvin's eyes filled with tears. Why? Why would you do this for us? Cooper smiled. Because it is the right thing to do. Because every life matters. Because no one should face darkness alone. A new voice came over the communication system. It was from one of the orbiting ships. Captain Cooper, we are detecting multiple ships entering the system. They are broadcasting Earth identification codes. On screen, Cooper ordered. The main display showed space outside the planet. 5 large ships were arriving. These were not warships. They were cargo vessels and passenger ships. This is Admiral Victoria Hayes of the Earth Fleet, a woman's voice said. Captain Cooper, we are bringing supplies, medical teams, and construction crews. Earth Command has decided to establish a permanent presence in this sector. We are here to stay, Cooper smiled. He had requested reinforcements, but he had not expected this much support this fast. Welcome to Kelrath, Admiral, Cooper said. We have a lot of work to do. Over the next few hours, the cargo ships began landing. They brought food, medicine, building materials, weapons, and technology. They also brought over 1,000 more people. Engineers, doctors, teachers, diplomats. Earth was not just helping Kelrath. Earth was making a statement that would echo across the galaxy. That night, Elder Torvin stood on the repaired wall and looked at the sky. But now, instead of enemy ships, he saw friendly ones. Earth ships standing guard, protecting his people. Captain Zelith joined him. I still cannot believe this is real. I know, Torvin agreed. The galaxy told us we did not matter, that our lives were not worth saving. And then humans came, humans who have no reason to care about us, yet they risk everything. What do you think will happen now? Zelith asked. Torvin thought about that question. I think the galaxy is about to change. For so long, the Council has decided who lives and who dies based on politics and profit. 2 weeks after the battle, news of what happened at Kelrath had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The story was told and retold on 1,000 worlds. A small colony, abandoned by the Galactic Council, saved by warriors from an unknown world called Earth. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Council, Councillor Varric stood before the full assembly. Beings from hundreds of worlds filled the vast hall. Some had scales, some had fur, some were made of crystal or energy. But they all shared one thing. They were all powerful, all comfortable, all part of the established order. The situation is worse than we thought, Varric announced. Earth has not withdrawn from Kelrath. Instead, they have reinforced. They now have a permanent base in that sector, and they are responding to other distress calls. Another counselor, a being made of living water named Quellis, spoke up. How is this possible? We have no record of this Earth. How did they develop space travel without our knowledge? They are from a remote sector, Varric explained. Far from the trade routes. They developed independently, and now they are interfering in galactic affairs. They saved civilians, a third counselor said. This one was Mira, a being covered in soft feathers. She was one of the few counselors who sometimes questioned the Council's decisions. Is that not what we are supposed to do? We must be practical, Varric replied sharply. We cannot save everyone. Resources are limited. Some colonies are too expensive to protect. But Earth did protect them, Mira pressed. With fewer ships than we have, they saved 3,000 lives. Perhaps we are not being practical. Perhaps we are simply being cowards, the chamber erupted in angry voices. Some counselors agreed with Mira. Others defended the Council's position. But beneath the debate, everyone felt it. Change was coming. On a distant mining colony called Brenix, the situation was desperate. Pirates had taken over the orbital stations. They demanded tribute. They took people as slaves. The colony had sent distress calls, but like Kelrath, they were told no help was coming. Governor Pack sat in his office, staring at reports of more attacks. His people were starving. They were dying, and he could do nothing. Then his communication officer burst into the room. Governor, we are receiving a transmission. It is from Earth. Pax felt his hearts begin to race. Earth, the ones who saved Kelrath? Yes, sir. They say they received our distress call. They are sending help. Pax could barely breathe. How long until they arrive? They say 8 hours, sir. 8 hours. In 8 hours, everything would change. The pirates in orbit around Brennex had no idea what was coming. They lounged on the stolen station, counting their loot and planning their next raid. Then their sensors started screaming warnings. 6 Earth warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel right in the middle of the system. They did not bother with warnings or negotiations. They simply opened fire. The pirate ships tried to fight back, but it was over in minutes. Earth's weapons were too advanced, their tactics too precise. The pirates who survived surrendered immediately. On the planet below, Governor Pax watched with tears in his eyes as Earth Marines landed. They freed the prisoners. They brought food and medicine. They brought hope. The same scene played out on 4 other colonies that week. Earth ships arrived. Earth warriors fought. Earth medics healed. And everywhere they went, the message was the same. You called for help. We are here. Back on Kelrath, Elder Torvin received visitors. They came from colonies across the sector. Some had been saved by Earth. Others had heard the stories and came to see for themselves. A delegation from the colony of Tresh stood in the repaired council chamber. Their leader, an elderly female named Kessa, looked around at the rebuilt structures, the thriving community, the human and Kelrathi children playing together. Is it true? Kessa asked. Did Earth really come just because you asked for help? It is true, Torvin confirmed. They asked for nothing in return. They simply came because they heard us calling. Kessa's eyes filled with tears. Tresh has been under threat for months. Raiders attack our settlements. We have sent messages to the council. They tell us to hire private security if we can afford it. But we are poor. We have nothing. Torvin placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Send your distress call again. But this time include Earth in the transmission. They will come. But why would they help us too? Kessa asked. They do not know us. They do not need to know you, Torvin explained. They only need to know you are in trouble. That is how humans think. It is strange to us, I know. We are used to the council's way. Politics, cost-benefit analysis. But humans are different. They believe every life matters. Kessa left that day with hope she had not felt in months. And true to Torvin's words, when Tresh sent their distress call, Earth answered. 3 days later, Earth ships arrived and drove off the raiders. Commander Jake Morrison had been promoted. He was now in charge of all ground operations in the sector. He sat in a meeting with Captain Ryan Cooper and Admiral Victoria Hayes, reviewing reports from across their area of operations. We have received over 100 distress calls in the last 2 weeks, Hayes said. She was a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and a no-nonsense attitude. Word is spreading fast. Colonies that have been ignored for years are now calling for help. Can we respond to all of them? Jake asked. Not immediately, Cooper admitted. But we are getting reinforcements from Earth. More ships, more Marines, more supplies. The government back home has committed to this mission fully. What about the council? Jake asked. They must be going crazy, Hayes smiled grimly. The council is divided. Some want to condemn us. Others are questioning why the council did not help these colonies in the first place. We have started a debate that has been needed for a long time. Amy Chen entered the room. She had also been promoted, now a captain in charge of training local defense forces. Sirs, I have news. We have been contacted by 17 colonies asking for help. But this time, they are not asking us to fight for them. They are asking us to train them to fight. That is good, Jake said. We cannot protect everyone forever, but we can teach them to protect themselves. There is more, Amy continued. 3 species have formally requested to join Earth in an alliance. They want to create what they are calling the Free Worlds Pact, a group of worlds committed to mutual defense and helping others. The room went quiet. This was bigger than anyone had expected. Earth had come to save one colony. Now they were creating a new political force in the galaxy. What does Earth Command say? Cooper asked. They are considering it, Hayes replied. This is a big step. We would be creating an alternative to the Galactic Council. Maybe the galaxy needs an alternative, Jake said. The Council has failed too many people for too long. In the following months, the changes accelerated. The Free Worlds Pact grew from 3 members to 20, then 50, then 100. Small colonies, ignored worlds, species that had been marginalized by the Council. They all flocked to Earth's banner. Earth did not rule them. Earth did not demand tribute or control. Earth simply offered protection, friendship, and training. In return, the member worlds agreed to help each other and to never ignore a call for help. The Vrakan Dominion tried to strike back. They attacked a colony that had just joined the Pact, but this time they did not face just Earth ships. They faced ships from 10 different worlds, all working together. The Vrakan were driven off with heavy losses. Commander Thrakus, now demoted for his failure at Kelrath, watched from a distance as his forces retreated again. He had warned his superiors. These humans were dangerous, but more dangerous than their weapons was their idea. The idea that the weak could stand together and become strong. On Kelrath, 1 year after the rescue, a celebration was held. The colony had been completely rebuilt. New buildings stood tall. Fields produced abundant crops. The population had grown as refugees from other worlds came seeking safety. Elder Torvin stood on a stage looking at the crowd. Human and alien faces mixed together. Children of a dozen species played without caring about their differences. 1 year ago, we believed we were going to die, Torvin said. His voice was strong now, no longer shaking with exhaustion. We had called for help and the galaxy said no. We prepared for the end, and then warriors fell from the sky. Jake Morrison stood in the crowd trying to stay inconspicuous, but Torvin pointed at him. Commander Morrison and his brave warriors came when no one else would. They did not know us. We had nothing to offer them. But they came anyway, and in doing so they did more than save 3,000 lives. They changed the galaxy. The crowd erupted in cheers. Jake felt embarrassed by the attention, but Amy elbowed him and whispered, "Let them thank you." "They need this," Torvin continued. "Today, Kelrath stands as a symbol of hope, a symbol that in this vast galaxy someone is listening, someone cares, and that someone will come when you call." He raised his 4 arms to the sky, to Earth and her warriors, to the Free Worlds Pact, to all who believe that every life matters. Thank you. The celebration lasted long into the night. Music played. Food was shared. Stories were told. And through it all, Jake watched and felt something he had not felt in a long time. Pride. Not pride in conquest or power. Pride in doing the right thing. Lisa Grant found him later, standing apart from the crowd. "You okay, Commander?"